Let's go live. This is James Middick speaking. I've got a good one for you today. You're creating an online course. You're new to this AI stuff. Which should you use? ChatGPT or Claude.ai? Two different tools do the same thing, but work quite a bit differently. And today I'm going to show you why I focus on Claude and why I think you probably should. If you're an online course creator, you're creating how-to material, and you want to make sure that you're getting the best out of yourself, and more importantly, you're getting the responses and or the content from any of these AI tools that will help you out. So what are we going to do today? I'm going to start off with a simple example to show you the difference, to see if you can in fact see it. I'm also going to kind of plug this into my teach model, which is the kind of the framework or the steps or process that I use to create how-to material. Next, we're going to take a look at what I think is the big difference and an easy way for you to indicate to yourself or kind of realize for yourself which ones should I actually use or how should I use these, which is the best kind of model for me to use. And I'll go through my process of how this works, and then finally I'll leave you with 6 kind of key tips or things to think about when you're making that decision for yourself. So let's take a look and start off with kind of an example, and I'm gonna show you an example, and let's see if you can actually figure this out for yourself or see the difference for yourself and how that works. So let me bring up a screen here, and I'm going to start one over here. Let me actually, we'll pull over. I have 2 paid versions of stuff. So this is ChatGPT 4, and I'm going to open up a new chat so that we have that. And in the other screen, what I'm going to do is, we've got Claude here. I'm going to go and we'll do start a new chat as well. So we've got new chats for both tools that are here. And I'm going to use just a simple example so that you can see what happens. So how-to material, I don't know if it's an online course, it's an ebook, it's anything that is a tutorial where you're trying to teach something or let people know, how does this work? What's happening? How do you do something? And here's some simple examples that hopefully might be able to help you out. So let's say in this example, I'm going to say, I really love chocolate chip cookies. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to add the prompt here and make sure my mouse is working. There we go. So I'm going to say, I'm going to say, how do I make better spell it correctly? How do I make chocolate chip cookies? I spelled chocolate wrong, but it should still work. So ChatGPT is going to give me a response, and the response is pretty straightforward. What it's doing is it's just saying, okay, here's the ingredients, preheat the oven, mix the wet ingredients, mix the dry ingredients, combine wet and dry ingredients, add the chocolate chips, shape the cookies, bake, cool, tips. It's got some tips here. Enjoy your cookies. So ChatGPT gave us a response, and you're probably going, okay, great, looks some great cookies. I could really like those. That's something I can eat. I'm all on board for chocolate chip cookies. What happens if we ask the same question, and I'll even spell it the wrong way? It actually fixed it for me. So I'm going to copy that, and let's go take a look now, and I'm just going to go to Claude.ai. And again, these are both paid versions of these tools. So I'm going to put this one in, and I'm just going to do a brand new chat, and I'm going to say, how do I make chocolate chip cookies? I'm going to put a question mark, and I'm going to hit enter. And let's see what it comes up with. It says, here's a basic recipe for chocolate chip cookies. Preheat the oven in a bowl, cream together some soft butter, white sugar, beat in 1 egg, and then in another bowl, gradually stir the ingredients into a wet mixture, fold the cup in the chocolate chips, drop spoonfuls, and then you're going to get about 2 dozen cookies. So take a look for this. And let's go back and take a look for, let me see if I'll do it over on one screen. So we'll put them to the right of the screen. And on this other one, I'm going to see if we can get not available in script screen. So can't do it that way. So let's do that instead. We'll go back to it. So there's a basic recipe. So how do I make chocolate chip cookies? If we go back and we take a look at this one, it's got all the ingredients, all the instructions, and some tips. So you might be looking at this and going, okay, what's the difference between the two? Why should I even think about this? What's the real important part? So if we're looking at creating how-to material and we're thinking about, well, first of all, can you see the difference between the two? They're different, right? They're quite a bit different. If I go and actually look at one for here, let me just open up another one that I did. Let me just open up one that's a little bit better example. I did actually, let me do this one here. I want to give a better example because this one isn't as detailed as I want. So let's do this. So I'm going to copy this. Let's try this again. What I'm going to do is we'll try it again because I wanted a better example, and the one that I gave, the prompt wasn't as good as it should have been. So it didn't give me the answer or the question that I really wanted. So let's try this again. I'm going to give it how do baking chocolate chip cookies. This one's in ChatGPT. And let's see what comes with this one. Okay, there's better. So I've got introduction, materials needed, ingredients, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So we have a very, very structured answer, very, very detailed, all put together with the steps and the process. Now, if I go and ask the same question of Claude, let me see if I can get a better response this time. That wasn't the one that I wanted. And let's see what happens. If you saw one of the previous videos I did earlier in the week, it was the let's see what happens, open-ended prompt. So let's see what happens this time if I give a bit of a different prompt to, there we go. So this is the first one I asked, so how to make chocolate chip cookies. Look what happens here. Certainly I'll create a how-to for baking chocolate chip cookies. Basic recipe I provided earlier, making it suitable for beginners. So look what's happened here. I've now got, says ingredients, equipment, instructions, right? And tips for perfect ones, and even storage. And you'll notice that it's split it into two sides, right? One I've got on the left-hand side here, I've got a bit of explanation, and on the right-hand side, I've got the details. And if we take a look at the details here, look what it said. It's got in the instructions, it's got prepare and heat your oven and line your baking sheets with parchment paper or silicone mat. It's got add the eggs and vanilla. This is a very, very, very simple, easy to understand approach. And if we go back and we take a look at ChatGPT again, for the same one, it's got the steps, step-by-step instructions. And look at even the ingredients. 1 cup unsalted butter, softened. If I look at the other one, I have 2 1/4 cups all-purpose flour. Where's the butter? It doesn't even have butter on this one, does it? Flour, salt, there it is. Unsalted butter, softened. So very similar in that respect. But the big difference for me, if you look at this, is something that I think is important for one key reason. If I take a look at this, and again, if we're talking about creating how-to material, I taught earlier in some of the videos, I'll put the links below, of course, if you haven't seen these. I use what's called a teach model or a teach framework. And whenever you're creating how-to material or how-to content, or any content for that matter, where you're trying to share some expertise or show people how to do something, I think you have to do it following this framework. And the framework is teach. So it's all about making sure that you have the right target, or you understand the questions and who has the questions. So you make sure that you have that all set. So obviously if someone wants to bake chocolate chip cookies, you know who the target is. Someone wanting to be cooking the cookies, or wanting the cookies and wanting to learn how to make them. And the recipe they want chocolate chip. You want to expand on that and make sure that you're looking at all of the pieces. So T is target, E is expand or explore. And you may look and say, well, what are the different ways of cooking chocolate chip cookies? How many different types are there? Are there bigger types, soft types, hard types? So you can expand and make sure that you understand what it is that the person wants. And after that, you have to kind of adapt how you're going to present this material and what they actually need to approve the task. So what do they, when you're going to be teaching it, do they need to have videos? Do they need to have a recipe checklist? What is it that you need to set up in terms of the how-to material? And after that, you're going to curate it and put it into some way to present it that makes it easy for the person to actually consume. And then after that, you want to hone it and go back and review it and put it together. So that teach model is all about, and here's the big difference between it. If you know the response that you need specifically, or you want to learn about the response, ChatGPT versus Claude are completely different. If I go back and I take a look at these ones again, just do it quickly with me here. In this one, we're using ChatGPT step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7, step 8. This is a very, very, very structured, linear approach to the response that you get. If you know exactly what you want and you know the steps that you just want the steps to follow, ChatGPT works fine because you know what the response is, you just want the steps. On the other hand, if you're thinking about, well, chocolate chip cookies would be a great idea, what are my options here? Or I want to be able to really understand all about the nuances or a friendly way of looking at it. We've now got a how-to guide, and it's all about, look, there's the prepare. So it tells you it tells you what to do. It's not just to here's what to do, but it tells or explains what it is that you're supposed to do. The other thing is if you look over here, we have a discussion about the response that it's providing. ChatGPT just dumps it on you, assuming that you ask for something, you're going to get something. Claude, on the other hand, has a conversation with you, which I'm a big fan of, and what it does from here is it gives you the output you wanted with detailed explanations, and then it gives you the reason that it gave the output. So it gives you two pieces of information. One is a friendly answer or response, and on the other hand, you get a reason why it gave the response. This is especially important when you're creating all of the content that you're thinking about for how-to materials. Now, you'll notice something else on the screen here that's, I think, is really, really important when you're playing around with these things. If I'm creating, and this is the way that I actually create content. So if I'm creating any kind of how-to material, and it's longer than a chocolate chip cookie recipe, if I'm creating a course or a mini course or a micro course or something that's 3 lessons long, or I want to create a checklist, or I want to be able to create an email marketing campaign for my courses or my member site. These things all require, in my system or the way that I do the workflow, is that what I'll normally do is I'm exploring the options for me. I don't necessarily know everything that I want to put into the course or the how-to material. I have an idea of where I want to be, but I don't know how to get there yet. And I want to see what are the different ways that I can get there. So if I use that approach, which I do, what happens is I usually do some prompts, and they're usually the ones that are conversational prompts to start. And I wind my way down to some kind of information that I want to use as the basis of what I'm trying to create, how-to package or course, what have you. So normally what I do is I do all this digging, and when I'm ready or I have some kind of output, I copy the output and I separate it and put it into another document or something that is to the side of the chat. So I've done some work in the AI tool, I've done some work in Claude, or I've done some work in ChatGPT. I copy what I need and I put it in a separate document. And then what I do is I'll go to either the next step or the next lesson or the next part that I need to know about, and I'll do the exact same thing. And what I might do from there is I'll either do a separate document so I can keep them in my head so I understand which is which and where they fit, or what I'll do is I have that one document and the output or the response that I worked my way through, I'll add that to the document. So I've got one document now with the two pieces from the two separate chats that I had. Now, if you have a 7-lesson course, or if you have 10 modules, or if you have 5 lessons in a module and you've got 4 modules or sections, you can see what happens. You're going to end up with a working document at the end, but the content has been generated by ChatGPT or Claude. That's how I normally do it. And the reason I do it that way is because I don't necessarily know the exact response that I want, and I have to investigate, explore, expand on all of these things to see what the best way is to actually teach or share what it is that I want to share. And the tools are great for that, but they provide the answers in different ways. And the big difference is if I do that in Claude, you can see on the right-hand screen here when I pull this up again, we're in a situation where we've got the description of what we're doing here and the output. And if you look down in the bottom of the screen, the thing with Claude that's kind of nice is I have the ability to copy it. I'm in the bottom right of the screen. Let me move this so you can see it. In the bottom right of the screen here, I've got copy. So I can copy the contents of this. I can download it, and it's downloaded to a file. It's Markdown usually. If you don't know what Markdown is, it's just a real simple way that all of these AI tools output the text with some special marks to let anyone know whether it's a header, H1, H2, H3, just a way so that it can be formatted in other tools, and then publish. So this actually allows me to publish this artifact on a page that's private to me so that I have my output that I generated from this particular chat. On the other hand, if I'm looking and I say, well, what's going to happen in ChatGPT, you can see what happens is I don't have any separate one. I just may end up with this big, long, honking chat that I may have to go, and if you look in the middle of the screen here, I can copy it, I can regenerate it, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and then this is the actual tool or version of ChatGPT that I'm using. So two different approaches. One is one big long chat for ChatGPT. The other one is the ability to have an expanded reasoning behind the output and the output available separately. So that's why I personally like it. It's a lot easier to organize, a lot easier to keep track of, and I think the output that it provides is far friendlier than you'll find in Claude. So I'm going to show you a couple things in the interface here in Claude that make it really, really cool, and the other big reason I use it, and then we'll cover 6 kind of key takeaways from this. Again, if you have any comments or anything, or you want to see more stuff, put them in the discussion below, and I'll put some additional links, of course, to anything that we cover here. Like and subscribe to the channel, get notifications, you know how to do that stuff. I'd love to have you do these. We do them every day, or I do them every day, just live sessions like this, answering questions that I get or things that I run into. Let's go back here, because I was rambling there for a second. Let's go back and take a look at a couple things that happen with Claude. So I'm going to open this up, and again, I have the paid version, and one of the things you have to do when you're playing around with Claude, I'll open up the main screen here. So if you can see on the top here, it says professional plan. I have the professional plan, and in this one here, professional plan, it says, good morning, James. It knows it's me because I'm logged in. And we've got, how can Claude help you today? This is where you put your chat in, and these are the different models that are available. Claude 3.5 is the current one that's most available. And the other thing that's here, I have projects. If you don't have a paid version, you won't see this, but projects are really important for how-to creators, and I'm going to show you why in a second. Also in the bottom left, you're going to see that if we go to your name in the bottom left side here, you'll see that there's a little drop-down arrow, drop-down box, and it tells you what plan that you're on, but it also has feature preview. And if you click that, oh, sorry, let's do this one. Let's go to settings first of all. And if we pull up the settings, you're going to put your name in, what should we call you, that kind of thing. And prompt suggestions are here, and enable artifacts. So one of the things you want to do for sure is make sure that you enable artifacts. That little piece is the one that separates the screen so that you can have the explanation on one side and then the actual output that is important that you ask for, or the response. So think of it kind of like the response is the technical response plus the explanation. That isn't available in ChatGPT. It's available in Claude. So that's why I really like it. That thing is artifacts. And then the other one is if I go back to Claude here, and you can see that there's a couple pieces that are here. And what this is, it allows you with Claude to really give a better example or use of context. Now, I've talked about this before. When we're thinking about creating all of these online courses and using prompts and stuff, the hard part for any of these tools is to figure out the context. And what that means is, what's the background information? What is the situation that it is responding to? If you don't give it much context, or you don't have much for it to work from, you're going to get a response that's really generic that may not have anything to do with what you were expecting. And the reason is you didn't give it any context. So your ability to provide context is really important to the quality of the responses that you get. So one of the things that I really like with Claude is that it allows you to upload all sorts of information that it can use as context. Now, I'll give you an example of one that I did recently with a couple of clients. We're creating a course, and if you want help creating a course, actually, there's a link below there, trainingsites.io/AI course. It's a one-on-one service that I provide to help people creating courses. The reason I mention this is because the person, the client that I was working with, what they had is they had written a book, and the book had 10 chapters, and they had a PDF copy of the book. It was ready to go to print. It was all finished, had all of the content that they had was all packaged up. The title, the chapters, everything was there. They wanted to create a course based on the book. So if we were creating or having Claude or ChatGPT do this and say, hey, can you create a course for me? And you didn't have the ability to give it any context, you'd have to either write in as much of you could as a description on each and every prompt. If you used a standard prompt, remember standard prompt is what action do you want it to take? What's the context of the action you're requesting, and what is the response that you want? So if you have a book that's got 500 pages or 250 pages, are you going to type in 250 pages to give it context? No. So the cool thing is, of course, with these is you can upload or add content. And these can be documents or images. You can put a maximum of 5 here, 30 megabytes each. You can upload these so that now has context around it. And that is really, really cool, because instead of you having to do it manually each time, you can refer to the content that you've already provided. In this case, we gave the entire book. So any of the prompts that we used, we just made sure that it took the content or worked off of the book that we had uploaded. So you can update content in both of them, which is absolutely great. And you're going, okay, well, they work both the same. Why is it so special? And this is the one that I really, really like with Claude versus ChatGPT. They can do the same thing in some respects, but they do them differently. I personally find this one for how-to material far easier to use. Now, what am I talking about? If I'm doing a project like building a course, and I have 7 big lessons that I want to do, And each of those 7 lessons maybe has 3 topics that I need to cover in them. And I want to do a video for each particular topic. If I did that and I had it all in one chat, you probably can't do it today because the actual sizes of the chats are limited in both these tools. But I would love to be able to say, you know what, I want to make sure that this section 1 or module 1 is separate. And I want to make sure that module 2 is separate. So I can keep them organized in my head, but I make sure that they're separated in terms of the content that I'm actually asking to be responded to. So the thing that's cool about Claude, and it's only available in the paid ones, is you'll see in the middle here where it goes, introducing projects. Bring your docs, code, and files to collaborate with Claude and your team. Try it out. So I have the paid version. If you look here, I'm going to move my mouse over the left-hand side. I get the start a new chat, but I also have projects. So I'm going to click projects and I get a little bit of a different screen. And these are all the different projects that I have. And upper right-hand side, if I want to create a new one, it's there. So you would just create a new project and it's going to give it a little bit of a title and a description so that you're kind of on board with it. I'm going to cancel and I'm going to open up one that I have here called Course 1. Now, this is just one that I play with, and this one, think of it if I have a course and I want to do modules and lessons, or if I have how-to material that I want to separate into chunks and organize and make sure that all of the chunks are referring to the same information. This is absolutely a game changer and why I like it. So if I look on this, I have a chat and you can see I've had separate chats in this project. So if I wanted to do module 1 as a separate chat, if I wanted to do module 2 as a separate chat and break those in and work on those individually, I can do that now instead of having one big, huge, long chat. So I can break it into whatever that you want. This can be creating the content. It could be marketing it. So if you're creating marketing material like emails, if you want to have a section on social media about it, all of that information can be organized in the project. But here's the real beauty of it. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see where it says add content here. If you upload the PDF, for example, of the book that you've created, or any reference material, whether it be your own or someone else's, this gives you the ability to have that context that's consistent with the entire project. You don't have to tell it each time. You don't have to make sure you're in one kind of chat that focuses on everything that's there. You can now upload content so that any of the prompts that you use the exact same context all the time, and it's shared amongst all of the different chats that you have. So the other thing you'll notice there is we've got, in this case, we've got all of the artifacts that we created in each of these particular chats. For example, there's an artifact right there. So I'm going to click that. So bi-weekly event calendar for beginner-friendly AI-assisted course creation. So I had asked it to create something here. It created it and it gave an explanation of why it created it. Okay, so let's go back to the project here. So I've got all of these artifacts that are here that I can download. I don't have to search through all of the different chats. They're all there. And the one that is really, really cool that I quite like is this one right here, where it says optional and it says set custom instructions for the project. And if you upload a PDF or if you upload your own documents, you probably have a style that you use in all of the material that you create. You probably use phrases or technical jargon that is appropriate for what it is you're trying to do. You probably have a different cadence or length of structures or reading level that is appropriate for you, but more importantly for the target or the people that you're trying to create this content for. So these special instructions allow you, as the person creating the content, to add your own flavor to all of the content that gets created in the project. And all you need to do is just click on my cameras in front of the screen. So I'm just going to click here, and it says set custom instructions for the project. So for this project, so how to behave and respond for all of the chats within this project. So instruct Claude, use a professional tone, concise and simple, whatever it happens to be. I asked Claude, or asked ChatGPT, I said, can you give me an example of some special instructions? And what I did on this one is I said, here's an example of some special instructions. Here's a big one. So here's a breakdown of these differences. So I can just copy and paste this. I would copy and paste it and put it in directly into, let's make sure I have the right one. My apologies. Bring it up again, copy and paste it and put it in directly into here and save the instructions. So now what happens is every time that it outputs or gives a response, it's going to be actually based on the special instructions, the reading level, the cadence, the tones of the words. It's all your flavor, your style, personal to you. And it's not those technical responses. It gives authentic or more authentic responses to any of the prompts or questions that you ask it in that reading level. So these are all things to kind of think about when you're creating how-to material. And at the end of the day, there's these 6 kind of things that you want to think about as you're moving forward in all these. And the ones that are really exciting, I think personally, is if you think of what you're actually doing here. The first one is, for me, creating content is I want to create content that's easily accessible to the widest group of people in my particular market. So I'm creating how-to material. I'm not creating technical journals. I'm not creating content about how to program a computer. The ones that I have are simple things in relative terms for real people who are trying to learn how to do real life tasks, not something overly technical. So the first thing you'll notice is if you look at the answers that you get, and we did at the start for the chocolate chip cookies ones, ChatGPT can adjust itself to all of these tones and styles if you tell it specifically in the chat to do it. But Claude is designed as a conversational tool and a natural tone. So anytime you ask it something, it's the response that you get isn't the technical, what did you want? It's, hey, that's a great idea. You might want to think about this, or did you want me to do this, or am I understanding you correctly? So the tone and style from the responses, one's talking to a person, one's talking to a computer. That's the way I look at it. Try them both, see what happens, see what you get. So when you get instructions with Claude, in this example, again, you get an explanation. You don't get an explanation, you just get the response in ChatGPT. If you look at the depth of the content, it's a little bit different. The depth of the content has to do with how specific things get. Again, if you're using technical stuff and you need the minute details, you're better off using ChatGPT. On the other hand, if you want general principles that you can dig down in, I think Claude is much better than that. Again, conversational prompting, talking to it, expanding on things, disregarding things, and again, having that natural conversation, which is something that you have when you normally don't have any idea what the exact end result is. The depth of content, a little bit different. The way you get there is a lot easier, in my opinion, using Claude. So if you're summarizing stuff, you're putting stuff together, Claude is much better. Step by step by step by step, you're probably going to want to use ChatGPT. The content structure and the flow of the structure. So if I look at ChatGPT, it's far more logical. And what I mean by that, it's a linear flow that guides you, again, through that process. On the other hand, if I'm looking at the responses that I get from Claude, it's not as rigid. And using that teach model that I use, it's the, I remember, target and expand and explore. That whole area of expanding and exploring, the way that you interact with Claude is fundamentally different than with ChatGPT. And I think it's built for that. The interaction between you and the tool is all about, again, that open kind of meandering path through all of this, which fits really, really well with that. So think of it as Claude is very, very fluid. And then if you look at ChatGPT, very, very structured. The other thing is handling the complex questions. And this really gets down to if you know what you want and if you don't know what you want as the response. You've heard me talk about, or hopefully you have in some of the other videos, about mega prompts. And a mega prompt is just this big, huge honking prompt that tells exactly what it is that you want, and you know the output or the response that you want because you've done it before 100 times and you know this is what you exactly want to output. That's a complex query. You've given it a whole list of things to do. ChatGPT is really good at that. It can follow those ones. Again, it's very, very linear. On the other hand, if you want things simple and focused, where you want something that's a reading level of grade 8 or grade 6, if you want terms that are not as technical, if you want uses or language patterns that aren't as overly structured or technical, Claude is much better than that just because of the nature of how it's set up to be more conversational. And again, personalization. When I look at personalization, the responses that you get in Claude are quite a bit different in terms of the talking to you. And let me just pull up an example here, one particular example, just to show you how this is. So I'm taking a look here. I'll pull back and I'll pull up this one here so we can see it. I'm back in ChatGPT, how to guide baking chocolate chip cookies. The introduction is here. Baking chocolate chip cookies is a delightful and rewarding experience. Home warm, inviting aroma. Whether you're a seasoned baker or beginner, this guide will walk you through. Okay, what does that sound like? Does that sound like your mom or computer, or what part does it sound like? If I go in and take a look and we pull up the Claude response and I open this one and I go back to all of our projects, and we'll go back to the chats here in how to write chocolate chip cookies. So I open this one, and if I take a look at it, this one says, certainly, I'll create a comprehensive how-to guide for baking chocolate chip cookies. This guide will be more detailed than a basic recipe I provided earlier, making it suitable for beginners and tips for perfect cookies. I originally asked for how do I make chocolate chip cookies. It knows that I may ask for chocolate chip cookies, and it just tells me, hey, I'll create a better one for you. Okay? This guide includes the list, step-by-step instructions that's perfect for cookies and storage information. And then it says, is there any part of this guide you would like me to expand or clarify further? And this is the important part for me. When we're playing around with creating how-to material, if it gives a response, it is a high level at the start, but it starts to drill down, and it even suggests that you drill down or expand on it. And this is entirely, again, a personal style. But for me, this opens up a world of possibilities for the responses you get, and more importantly, for the quality of the content that you're going to create. If you only want to create content that is of a specific structure and you want to repeat it over and over again, ChatGPT is great if you know the response that you want. If you're creating how-to material that is far more open and amenable to exploration and different ways of doing things and different perspectives on it, where you don't necessarily know the exact structure that you want, Claude is far better or better suited to doing that. So these are the things that you kind of have to think about when you're playing around with these. I just want to, kind of want you to think when you're doing this, what kind of content am I creating? What's the important part of the content? Do I know the answer that I want? Do I want to have a friendly conversation, or do I just want a structured conversation? Do I have projects that have multiple chats or different information or context that I want to put in? Am I working with clients? If you're using this with a client or different courses, you can have a project for each course. Not just one course, but multiple courses. If you're doing the whole part of selling your how-to information, you might have a project that includes creating the course, marketing the course, supporting the course, additional materials for the course. It's all in one place. So if you're interested in learning how to use these tools and how to use Claude and how to create online courses, please make sure to just check the link below there, the trainingsites.io /AI course. I'd love to chat with you, have a talk, tell me what you're up to. I'll see if I can help you or get you directed in the right place. And if you're interested in training sites or building a member site, all of that stuff, we have a how-to service, or pardon me, a done-for-you service and done-with-you service. We'll work with you to build the member site that you want to start, build, and grow your education business. As always, we do these daily, or I do these dailies. I get back in the habit of saying that. I create these daily. If there's topics that you want to cover, just let me know in the comments below. And of course, like and subscribe to the channel, visit the site. Love to help you out and help you have fun making videos, making content, and sharing what it is that you know, love, and do. Take care, expect the best. We'll be back tomorrow.